Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and what I wanted to do in this video was specifically talk about the Vanguard Hoplite variant. Now, this is the variant that was actually mentioned by Chris Roberts very casually during the Gamescom presentation, and it was about a variant of the Vanguard that nobody had ever heard about and was coming out sooner rather than later. Now, before we get too far, I wanted to let you know that what we're looking at here is the assets from the game in the Holo Viewer that was actually pulled from Xenthor and then loaded onto this website. Now, if you're not familiar with Xenthor's work, he's a YouTuber. He does different varieties of content. He does really high-quality cinematics and some really cool stuff. So he's linked on my channel. Definitely worth checking him out if you haven't. Now, so getting back to this ship. We could start talking about the Vanguard and say, okay, so we've got today a Redeemer dropship, and we've got today a Retaliator dropship module. Why do we all of a sudden now have this additional version of the Vanguard that's a dropship? And I think the answer is really simple. One, we haven't seen the actual dropship module developed yet for the Retaliator. And two, we haven't actually seen the Redeemer after it's reworked. It's not even slated to be scheduled yet. It needs to be done, but it's quite a ways off. So with Squadron 42 looming and being towards the end of the year, they needed to be able to build in a ship that was going to be able to fulfill that role in the game universe for the campaign. Now, the Vanguard makes sense because it's flight ready. We know it's going to be a part of Squadron 42, and it's one of the bigger ships that opens up some of this flexibility. Now, who knows? I don't know. This could have been planned all along, but there's some things about it that make me say that this was kind of added in at a later time. For example, this ramp here is significantly bigger than it is on the other varieties of the Vanguard. Now, when we start talking about the Vanguard, interesting things are to be considered because this box right here is what was considered to be the swappable component on the ship. This was never a factor, this little back quarter. So one of two things could happen. This could either be a variant that has a specific hole, kind of like we see on like the Cutlass Blue, for example, that's got a bigger hole than the other varieties of the Cutlass. Or it could be an indicator that this is now going to be a part of the swappable modules on the Vanguard when those other pieces end up being added into the game. Regardless of that, though, I think it is pretty clear that that piece is going to be different. And let's go ahead and this thing's a little bit wonky to work in, so bear with me as I try and get in the right position here. And pivot and back up. Okay. So here's the ramp from the inside. And if you're familiar with the Vanguard, in most of these variants, normally the ramp will kind of go from like these screws up to about this point. That's about the same. And we'll come back down to this. It's a very narrow kind of catwalk area. The back of the Vanguard is really pretty inefficiently designed, because on the other varieties, it ends up ramping upward and kind of just makes landfall right about here. And then this just drops down and creates the ramp. This is about twice as big as it is on the other varieties. And I think that's a really important design decision in a dropship when you consider the fact that the purpose of a dropship is to get people on and off very quickly. And if that's the point, then this is going to help you accomplish that. Now, if you're wondering who you're going to be dropping off, let's move into this position. Whoop. It's going to be your 6 Marines. You've got 2 seats on this side, 4 seats on this side. You've got the fold down on both the seat and the restraints. And then up here we actually have a weapons mount. Whoop. There we go. That's capable of holding, I think it's 11 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 heavy weapons, which means that you could have shotguns, submachine guns, assault rifles, sniper rifles, maybe a flamethrower. Who knows what options are going to be available. But that's another really important component when you start talking about the ability to drop off troops. I don't see anything here that makes me think like power armor or anything like that, like we hear about on the Retaliator dropship. But it does provide you a pretty good opportunity for equipment here. And then the rest of the ship is essentially the same. We come in here and it's still the little, access area. You've got the cockpit area up there. The weapons haven't really been updated, so it's hard to say what other benefits you're going to get there. So when we start talking about this, I think ultimately what you're going to see out of this ship is going to be right now kind of a patchwork to be able to use this mechanic in the campaign. But in the persistent universe, you're obviously going to be able to use this variety because they're building it. They're going to make it available to us. So when you start comparing it to other ships, this is going to be really well suited to situations like I need to get somebody to the very edge of this system as fast as possible. All of a sudden, this becomes probably a better option than something like the Redeemer. The Redeemer is not expected to be a fast ship. The Redeemer is expected to be able to take a lot of punishment, but it's not necessarily meant to be fast. The other factor here is when you start comparing the Redeemer versus the Hoplite. The Hoplite's only real weaponry that's articulated is going to be up here. Is going to be the turret. On the Redeemer, you've got a top turret and a bottom turret, and that bottom turret is the one that's going to be really important to providing cover fire for your troops when you're unloading them. So right now on this ship, your Marines start running out here. There's nothing protecting them. When you start talking about on a Redeemer, your Marines come down, you've got a turret here that can fire this way or that way, or really any 360-degree arc there, except where your Marines are coming out. And you're able to get in a little bit better. So I think they're going to end up serving different purposes, which I think is their overall point overall. But it is worth noting that when you start comparing this and wondering why there's so many dropships all of a sudden, that there's going to be different areas where they exceed. I think or succeed. I think the Vanguard is more specific to getting people fast or going far. I think the Redeemer is better suited to more hostile situations and also being a gunboat, which it is. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Thank you to Xenthor for putting this together. If you have questions, let me know. Weigh in with your opinions as well, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.